You're listening to As I Was Saying. I'm April Simpkins, and each episode we unpack what's quietly messing with your mental health at work and how to take your peace back without quitting everything. This podcast is for you if just pushing through is wrecking your peace. I'm breaking down the stuff we all deal with and giving you tools to actually do something about it. Hey friends, it's April. Welcome back to As I Was Saying, the podcast where we stop sugarcoating workplace culture and start peeling back the layers like an onion. Anyway, today we're diving into a topic that sounds cheerful on the surface, but can be deeply damaging underneath: toxic positivity. It's the belief that no matter how bad things are, you should just stay positive, smile through it. Just gratitude your way out of a panic attack. You've seen it. You've lived it. You might even have it printed on a coffee mug. You know, good vibes only, which is cute until you're crying in a bathroom stall because you dared to have a human emotion on a Tuesday. Anyway, let me be clear. I'm not anti-positivity. I love a good, we got this moment. I clap at team meetings. I own glitter pens, but when positivity becomes a job requirement instead of a genuine reaction, it's not encouragement, it's censorship. And when the workplace turns into a stage play where everyone's auditioning for most uplifting employee, we stop promoting wellness and start promoting performance. And spoiler alert, ain't nobody gonna win an award for pretending to be fine when you're not. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I had a client. Let's call them the enthusiasts. Anyway, ping pong tables, free lunch Fridays, TED Talk style staff meetings. It was basically like summer camp for adults until someone had a bad day, or worse, an opinion. If you weren't radiating sunshine, you got side-eyed. Actually, one employee told me she was pulled aside for bringing down the energy because she didn't smile during a morning huddle. See, if someone had a concern or, heaven forbid, a bad day, they were corrected, not fired, just side-eyed or nudged, told to reframe. So people like her learned to just play along. They high-fived and fake smiled their way through the day. Many of them were pros at it. And then we added the employee hotline, and the anonymous calls started coming through loud and clear. I got the unfiltered truth about burnout, disconnection, resentment, emotional exhaustion, and fear, real fear of losing their job if they do anything other than just grin and bear it. Now, I had to figure out how to bring these concerns to the owner without triggering defensiveness. So I suggested to him and the leadership team that we do an engagement survey. Our team would conduct the survey and present the results in an aggregated format, which would allow us to maintain the anonymity of the employees while providing much needed insights into the sentiment of, the general staff. And initially, the leadership balked because they really didn't see any problems. They truly believed that they found lightning in a bottle and that their culture was just amazing. Bless their hearts. But to their credit, they agreed to the survey. And when the results came in, it turns out employees weren't as happy as the leaders thought. And here's the thing. The employees didn't want more perks. They just wanted permission to be real. Now, let me get personal. I lost my daughter a few years ago, and my world cracked open. And all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, my entire life was split into 2 time periods: before her death and after her death. And I'm blessed to have had so many people who wanted to be there for me and my family. And while I know there were a lot of people who meant well, I got a greatest hits album of phrases like, everything happens for a reason. She's in a better place. God has a plan. And I'm not saying that those things aren't true. I'm saying they weren't helpful. I didn't need someone to repackage my grief into a silver lining or a theological TED talk. I needed space to not be okay. Sometimes I needed silence or support or just space to grieve. And in those moments, a simple, I'm so sorry, I'm here. Whatever you need, I'm here. That, my friends, is mental health support in action. That's what allowing someone to not be okay looks like. Now, let's look at some numbers and talk facts. According to the American Psychological Association, 59% of workers report feeling stressed because of emotional demands at work. And research shows that suppressing emotions increases stress, anxiety, and even aggression. So the next time you hear someone say, fake it till you make it, just know that does not apply to your mental health. Faking it might just break you. And if you're still not convinced that toxic positivity is a problem, consider this. It can morph into what feels like workplace gaslighting. You know, if someone's overwhelmed, you tell them, hey, just be grateful you have a job. If they're burned out, the retort is, hey, just stay positive. Found yourself crying in your car again and sharing that with somebody, and they come back with, hey, you know, it could be worse. That's not wellness. That's denial wrapped in a smiley face emoji. When employees stop feeling safe, expressing frustration, fear, or fatigue, they don't magically stop having those feelings. They just stop talking about it. And silence is the death of culture. Now, let me be clear. Toxic positivity is a culture issue, and culture in the workplace is a top-down process and is always established by the senior-most person or people. And it's based on what the leader expects, accepts, rewards, and disciplines. For example, if the tone from the top is everybody should be happy and grateful to work here, then that's what they expect. And if you're having an off day, but you don't quite show it, that's what they'll accept. And if you're always presenting with a great attitude, like you drank the Kool-Aid and lots of cheer, you'll be rewarded. And if you dare criticize anything going on at work, you'll be corrected or disciplined or coached. Not with a termination or a written warning. The discipline will be subtle and cultural. You know, when people start treating you differently. Let me give you an example. I had a client years ago, and someone in a senior position called and asked me to have a conversation with an employee. Let's call her Melancholy. There'd been some concerns, quasi complaints made by a group of employees regarding Melancholy, who admittedly didn't smile a lot when she arrived at work. She didn't engage in the office chatter. She didn't share in conversations about her weekend or what was new. You know the drill. So I agreed to talk with Melancholy. And instead of approaching her as if she was doing something wrong by not showing up for work, smiling from ear to ear and passing out candy, I asked her, a seasoned employee whose performance was exceptional, if she believed she was receiving the support she needed to do her best work. We talked through that. It was an open and honest conversation. I asked her what she enjoyed most about her job. We talked through that as well. And I asked a few more questions centered around engagement. And then I was done. The rest of my time on this matter was spent talking with the leaders about why it was not okay for the employee to be her authentic self. Why did job satisfaction require a good vibes only persona? Getting back to culture. As I mentioned, the senior-most person or persons establish the culture. When someone creates a culture that is different than the one established by leaders, it can become a subculture. And this was the problem with Melancholy and her supervisor. The culture inside the organization was actually relaxed. However, her supervisor expected good vibes only, which created a subculture. And if the subculture goes rogue, congratulations. You have now created a counterculture. And trust me, you don't want that mess. That's like trying to herd caffeinated cats. Anyway, so what do we do first? How do we interrupt the culture of toxic positivity? First, train your leaders and then train everyone else on your team. Start with psychological safety training. That means that employees feel safe speaking up, admitting mistakes, or saying, I'm not okay without being labeled difficult or told to try yoga. Also, teach leaders how to handle hard conversations. Let them practice active listening, not active fixing. Sometimes leaders want everyone smiling because they don't know how to handle conflict or they handle it poorly. Oh, and also learning how to de-escalate tense situations or conversations goes hand in hand with learning how to have those difficult conversations. Also, let's talk about mental health first aid. No more awkward hallway check-ins that sound like, you good? Give your leaders real language, real tools, real empathy. So here's your mental inbox rundown. For leaders, your team doesn't need you to be a motivational speaker. They need you to be a safe place for their authentic self. And I know as a leader, you have a lot on you, but so does your team. As leaders, our mantra is often, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. And I get that. But sometimes the solution isn't tied to fixing something. Sometimes the solution is to acknowledge disappointments, frustrations, and pain without trying to reframe it. They need you to be a human who makes space for them to be human. Ask how they're doing and then be quiet and listen. For the exhausted employees, you're allowed to feel tired, annoyed, or like you would actually rather eat staples than join another Zoom call. Those feelings are valid. Don't suppress your emotions. Acknowledge your feelings and allow yourself to process them. Set boundaries and don't feel obligated to engage in conversations or interactions that drain your energy. Don't fake it to fit in. And this goes to everyone. Stop expecting sunshine from people who are living in a hurricane. Being in a good mood and being positive, that's wonderful. If that's sincerely what you feel, not being okay and taking time to process that is also valid. And if you're working in an environment ripe with toxic positivity, try saying something like this and saying it tactfully. I'm working through a lot right now and I appreciate some space to do that. Or I hear the positive take, but I'm trying to sit with the full picture before jumping into a solution. Here's a bit of truth. Mental health at work isn't a vibe. It's a lifeline. And if we want trust and loyalty and innovation, we have to make space for the full range of human experience, even the messy parts. So let's retire good vibes only and replace it with something that's more honest, like come as you are. We can handle it. That's a wrap on today's episode of As I Was Saying. And if something in today's conversation made you nod or sigh or want to forward it to your entire team, go ahead and do that. Let's normalize talking about mental health at work. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you're listening. It helps the algorithm, sure, but more importantly, it helps real people find this show. You can connect with me at aprilsimpkins.com and follow me along on my Instagram or my LinkedIn. Now, our next episode is checked out. Why engagement is on the decline. You know, Gallup's been ringing the engagement alarm like it's a fire drill. And guess what? Half the office still isn't moving. So in our next episode, we unpack the not so subtle signs that employees are mentally checked out. We're going to explore the culture and some leadership missteps that are fueling disengagement crisis and share smart, doable strategies for getting your team to care again. Pizza parties and ping pong tables notwithstanding. You won't want to miss it. Until then, take care of your mind, protect your peace, and remember to be your authentic self. I'm April Simpkins, and this is As I Was Saying. Be well.